Hello and welcome to the Psychology of Spending, Why We Buy. My name is Amy Parten and I'm the Education Manager at GreenPath Financial Wellness. GreenPath is a nonprofit consumer credit counseling agency and a HUD-approved housing counseling agency that was started in 1961. At GreenPath, we provide a variety of different services including housing counseling, financial assessments, bankruptcy counseling, and the debt management program. Please check out our website at www.greenpath.org to learn more information about the services we provide. So as we start looking at the psychology of spending, we're going to turn our attention to our spending habits. How did we become spenders or savers? There are various factors that have contributed to our current relationship with money. We're going to take a look at our values, our self-image, social factors, as well as advertising. To understand why we spend, we must first understand our values and attitudes towards money. What's the difference between a value and an attitude? The two words are often used interchangeably, but actually represent distinct ideas. Values are strongly held beliefs that reflect our upbringing. Without examining and conscious effort, it's very difficult to alter a personal value. Attitudes, on the other hand, are more easily changed, and they usually reflect our current life situation, our likes, our dislikes. As such, they're not as deeply embedded. The two work together and can influence each other, of course, but are not the same thing. A simple example. This is Robert. He values hard work and commitment. But on Monday morning at 6 a.m., his attitude toward work may be less than positive, creating in him a negative emotional reaction to the alarm going off. His values haven't changed, just his immediate attitude toward going to work. And that attitude leads to the behavior of hitting that snooze button maybe one too many times. That's great, but what does it have to do with spending? Well, it matters because our values usually influence our attitudes, and our attitudes, well, they create an emotional reaction. That emotional reaction can lead us to certain behaviors, and for some of us, that behavior gets in the way of achieving our financial goals. So how do we stop this chain reaction and counterproductive behavior? Well, we have to go back to the beginning and understand where our values about money and spending came from. The only way to alter your attitude toward money and thus your behavior is to understand the values that led to those attitudes. Our money values are influenced by several different factors. We're going to start with our family. The family in which a person is raised usually has the greatest influence on the individual's values about money. Research finds that we're a lot more like our parents than we think, at least as far as our spending habits are concerned. Our tendency is to spend or save the way that our parents spent or saved. Media. Movies and television shows are filled with images of the good life. The lifestyle depicted is often far from the reality that most of us experience. And yet, these projected images deeply influence the way we see our personal level of success and what we value. Finally, culture. An individual's values are also influenced by cultural values. America is a culture of spending. Since the explosion of easy, accessible credit that began in the 80s, our cultural tendency has been a buy now, pay later mentality. We value material goods and, culturally speaking, tend to judge others not on their character, but rather on what they own. So we're going to do an exercise now, and hopefully you have a piece of paper and a pencil or pen or an electronic device to jot down some ideas. In this exercise, we're going to follow a few steps to learn more about our values. So first, identify a time in your life when you felt the happiest. Go ahead and just jot that down. What were you doing? Were others with you? What in particular made that time happy? Next, identify a time in your life when you made a difficult decision, but knew with all certainty that it was the right decision. What made that decision difficult? Did you feel relief once it was made? Again, jot down a time in your life when you made a difficult decision, but knew with all certainty it was the right one. Next, identify a time in your life when you felt the most successful. What about that achievement made it a success? Did other people know about your success, or was it a personal achievement? Again, identify a time in your life when you felt the most successful. Identify a time in your life when you felt the most satisfied and peaceful. What was happening at the time? Were you with others? What in particular made this time satisfying? All right. Now, using your experiences of happiness, certainty, success, and satisfaction, try to describe in just a few words why each experience was truly important and memorable. This exercise often leads to a few core values that dominate. And to give you some words that are often used to describe values, you can take a look at the screen at this point. And just to let you know, most people have between 3 and 7 core values. If you find that you have more than 7, see if you can group a couple of them together. If so, choose the one that best represents the group of values. For example, if you felt the most successful after organizing a charity event, well, you may use the words like philanthropy or community and generosity to describe why that event was meaningful. But these 3 words could then be condensed a little further to say that service to others was the true value of the event. I think you get the idea. Once you have defined your core values, think about the ways in which you choose to spend your money. Are your spending choices in line with your core values? If not, what changes can you make to better align your spending and your values? So Gandhi said, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. So the question is, are your current spending decisions in line with your defined values? If not, think about how you can make changes to your spending. If your spending and values don't reflect your values, it is time to make a change. Make a conscious decision to put your money into things that represent your core values rather than allowing your spending habit to determine your values. Share your values with your family. Spending decisions will be influenced by every member of your family. It is important that everyone understand one another's values and that you've identified shared values. Now we're going to turn our attention to other influences on our spending behavior. The effect of advertising on spending. Well, experts estimate that an average person is exposed to anywhere between 250 and 5,000 advertisements daily. This takes into account not only the advertisements that we see when we're watching TV or listening to the radio, but also those that pop up while you're surfing the net or using your favorite app. It also takes into consideration those advertisements on the billboards and the more subtle advertisements like the placement of products. With the amount of advertising we're exposed to daily, there is absolutely no doubt that this has a major influence on our spending habits. We're going to try a little exercise here. This is called the logo game. Now, the influence that advertising has on our spending starts very early. By the time children are 3 years old, they're not only able to recognize brands, but they have already developed strong value judgment on which brands are better or that they prefer. Let's test our own brand recognition. See if you can quickly identify what these logos represent. What's that one? It's a check mark, right? No, that's Nike. What about this guy? What does this represent? Kentucky Fried Chicken. And there's Starbucks, of course. And Apple. If you haven't used one, you're probably using an Apple device now or have in the past. What about this? Let's have Amazon, of course. Chili's. The Golden Arches, of course, McDonald's. Twitter. And Target. I think you'd agree we all could name these logos with very little hesitation, even though there are no words written on the screen. They're all images. So short of living in a cave or cutting out all communication from the outside world, what can we do to combat the influence of advertising? So the best way to combat the influence of advertising on our spending is to understand the tactics that advertisers use to get us to buy. So let's take a look at what some of those tactics are. They're constantly barraging us with images of happy, healthy, smiling people using their particular product, aren't they? This creates a psychological connection in our brains, liking personal fulfillment with that particular product. These connections are so ingrained in our psyche and culture, we base our individual worth on stuff that we have. Now, there are also social situations that can influence our purchasing behavior as well. What are some of them? Well, neighbors, family or friends, society, social class, the type of job that we have. Did you know that we're more likely to purchase items from people we know? For example, you're more likely to purchase something at a friend's party than from someone you don't know, like that is selling that same product in a kiosk at the mall. That's why companies like Tupperware and Pampered Chef, Avon, and Mary Kay rely on in-home parties to sell their products. Our social class has an influence on our spending attitudes as well. Have you ever experienced a time when you received a significant increase in income only to find that it increased your spending? Now this may be because of the change in your social class. A social class is a group of people who have the same social, economic, or educational status in society. To some degree, consumers in the same social class exhibit similar purchasing behaviors. The higher our socioeconomic status, the more expensive the car or the house or the clothing that we buy. Our peer group, that also has a strong influence on our spending habits. We may think that peer pressure only exists for teenagers, but it is true for adults too. Have you ever found yourself going out to lunch at work even though you brought your lunch just because everyone else is going out and you don't want to miss out? Or spending more than you intended to when shopping with a friend because, after all, they told you how great you look in that outfit or how much you needed that product. Let's not forget about atmosphere. Most of us have had that experience of being in a shopping mall and finding it extremely difficult to find an exit. This is not an accident. The longer that you're in the store or mall, the greater the likelihood that you're going to make a purchase. Retailers control the lighting, the layout, the music, the temperature, even the smell to entice you to buy. For most people, shopping is not simply an act of purchasing what you need and then going home. Shopping is entertainment and social, and the shopping mall is experiential. For researchers, malls are vast, complex, and complete. Studies have shown that more actual purchases occur in the third hour of shopping. So malls are designed to keep a shopper there for at least that long. With winding architecture, appealing music, and even adding pleasing aromas, it's not difficult to do. Another very important factor that influences our spending is our self-concept. Each of us carries a certain set of beliefs about ourselves. This set of beliefs is known as our self-concept. Generally speaking, we act in ways that are consistent with our own self-image. For example, if a component of one's self-concept includes that they're a good cook, well, they're more likely to volunteer to prepare food for a party than someone who has a self-concept of not being a good cook. I am, those are two very powerful words. What you put after them really does shape your reality. Your self-concept often answers the question of, who am I? So, self-concepts may include ideas such as I'm a hard worker, or good at math, or tall. Now, just think for a minute about your self-concept in regard to spending money. Now, keep in mind that when our behavior doesn't match our self-concept, it can really lead to mental stress. Acting in ways that's contrary to our self-concept can lead to something called cognitive dissonance. In psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental stress caused when our brains are confronted with contradictory beliefs. For example, a person whose self-concept includes that they're good at solving riddles will experience cognitive dissonance if they're confronted with a riddle that they can't solve. Keep in mind that if your beliefs don't match your behavior, you will be stressed out. And let's not forget about the idea of self-fulfilling prophecies. A self-fulfilling prophecy is a prediction that directly or indirectly causes itself to become true. So what does that have to do with money? Let's bring it back to our main topic here. Because subconsciously we go to great lengths to avoid that cognitive dissonance, We will act in ways consistent with our self-concept about money. So if you think of yourself as a saver, you will probably feel some psychological stress when you have to take money out of savings for a large purchase. If you think of yourself as a spender, you may be more likely to make those impulse purchases. Examining and recognizing your self-concept around money can help you avoid behavior that's counterproductive to reaching your goals. A spender who makes a conscious effort to change their self-concept to that of a saver will find it much easier to save for their goals. Changing how you think about yourself may actually change your behavior as well. When faced with a decision of whether to buy or not to buy, if you think to yourself, I'm the type of person who saves money, you might actually find it easier not to buy. Once we have a greater understanding of our values and the factors that affect our attitudes about money, we can then decide if we need to make a change to reach our goals. And if you have determined that changing is in your best interest, then it's time to talk about a few strategies to save. First, pay yourself first. What does that mean? Well, it means to designate a certain amount of money before paying any bills to go into saving. For example, if you decided that you're going to save 10% of your income, then you would create your budget based on 90% of your take-home pay. People report the most success when they have that 10% directly deposited into a savings account. It's kind of that idea, if you don't see it, you won't miss it, and you won't spend it. Another strategy is to learn to love saving. You might find that watching your money grow and saving for purchases in the future might be quite satisfying than spending that money impulsively. Remember, we talked about this. Change your self-concept from the I love spending to I love saving actually helps you change your behavior. Align your spending with your values. If you find that you're spending more money than you want to on items like entertainment or dining out or clothing or other wants, review your core values. If entertainment wasn't one of those top values, rethink why you're spending your money there. Find the things that truly matter to you and demonstrate its importance with your spending decisions. And finally, please be aware that we are highly influenced by advertising. Think before you buy. What are some strategies that stop you from that impulse purchase? Well, asking some questions like, do I need this? Will I really use this product? Where will I put it? What if I wait? All great questions to ask yourself if you're tempted to buy impulse. Understanding your values and attitudes and emotional reactions can help you change your behavior. Defining your values helps you make money choices that are in line with them. Being aware of the things that impact your attitude, such as social status, peer pressure, and advertising, can help you change your behavior. And don't forget, building your savings usually relieves stress. Combining this insight with why you buy will hopefully help you make the choices that will allow you to meet your financial goals. I really hope this webinar has been helpful. Remember, you're welcome to schedule a free phone or in-person assessment with one of our financial experts. Also, please check out our website at www.greenpath.org for more information about us and our financial education material and tools. Thanks again for joining us, and have a fantastic day.